during tonight's event. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and call the candidates to the stage for U.S. House of Representatives, Texas House of Representatives, District 28. We have the Republican incumbent, Representative John Zerwas, and on behalf of the Democratic candidate, Dorothy Bottos, her husband, Richard Bottos. Please welcome them.
Our side were appropriately placed. Thank you for doing
All right,
it. Actually fell that way.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. The coin flip previously was won by Representative Zerwas, and he deferred to take the question second. So the first question will be for Richard Bottos. Mr. Bottos, if your wife is elected our state representative, please identify what is the single most serious threat she sees to the security of the state of Texas, and what will she do about it?
Threat right now is from our borders, obviously. We don't have a very secure border. I think there just news on the evening came out and said that the fence will not be completed by the end of the year, that they had planned on doing that. So some accelerated methodology to get the fence completed, which will help ensure our national security more than anything else, not so much state security. It is an avenue for terrorists, but there's also we have to also consider 4,000 miles of the Canadian border. It's a lot easier for a terrorist to get into Canada than it is the United States, and that's some consideration needs to be done either by electronic surveillance or unmanned drones that can actually help out in that issue. That's something that needs to be investigated, take a look at. That's all.
Thank you very much. Representative Zerwas, same question.
Thank you, Trey, and thank you all for being here and participating in this. It's a great opportunity to get to know you better, and for us for you all to get to know us. I would echo the comment that Richard said related to border security. I'm very proud to have been a co-author to some of the legislation that, in fact, forced some assets down to the border in the form of technology, in the form of people, and some of it in the form of a fence. A fence without people and without technology is only good for the companies that make ladders, and I think we all recognize that. So really, a fence alone doesn't do us a whole lot of good. It is just one of those additional things that help human beings and help technology, helicopters, those kinds of things help protect our borders. And I think that's the first and foremost thing that we need to do in terms of public safety and addressing what is a bigger issue, and that is immigration. Immigration is probably one of the bigger problems that we still face in this state. It is the responsibility of the federal government to do it, but it is our problem. And so we are being forced to take some of the hard-earned tax dollars that you send our way and force those down to the border to do the things that, by and large, the federal government should be doing. I think we're all familiar with border security, and I would pledge to you that that is something that we will look again at the 81st session, and we will be in a position to probably need to send more assets down that way. I strongly support that position. But I think another thing that we need to be aware of, and I'll speak to it just briefly, in terms of a great threat to us, is the quality of our education. We have got to get education right in the state of Texas. And so that is one of the things that we will look at again in the 81st session, not just the funding, but the quality of the education that we're delivering to our children.
Thank you. Representative Zerwas, this question will be first directed to you. It is clear that the U.S. is now in the midst of a major economic crisis. What will you do at the state level in the next legislative session to assist citizens that may be hurt the worst by this economic downturn?
Well, thank you, and I think that that's a very good question. And I think that although the state of Texas has been somewhat insulated from this, I do think that it's something that we need to be paying attention to. The state of Texas has enjoyed one of the best business climates that exists in this entire country. It's been recognized by national periodicals as such, and I think it will continue to thrive for a variety of reasons, and that's because Texas has created a very business-friendly environment, I would say with one exception, and that's the margins tax. And we can talk about that perhaps on another question. But the question that Trey has posed to me, that in the event, in the probable event that we see a downturn in our economy, and the state of Texas is faced with less revenue than it anticipates, how are we sure that we address the things that are most critical to Texans? Very important question, and it's one that the Appropriations Committee of the Texas House takes up with a great deal of seriousness. I had the opportunity to sit on that committee, specifically the Health and Human Resources Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee, but it gives us the chance, with 28 of my fellow representatives, to look at every dollar that is spent in the state of Texas. And it's a very serious effort that we go through in terms of addressing what are the most critical needs. And so what I would say to the audience is that we need to be sure that we have representation in Austin that can understand these issues, has the ability to put their hands and their fingerprints on these issues, and reflect their votes, reflect their impact in that type of committee setting, so that we're sure that we're meeting the needs of Texans, and specifically meeting the needs of the folks in House District 28.
Okay. Mr. Bottos, again, what will your wife do at the state level in the next legislative session to assist the citizens that may be hurt the worst in this economic crisis?
Just relative to the discussion, we have a fellow that we hired at work, and they've been in the oil field for 40 years, and that has been a good business with its ups and downs. But he attended a job fair, there's 7,000 unemployed. We're not completely isolated from the issues that are affecting most of the country. We're a little bit higher on the totem pole, as it were. Relative to legislation such, we need, again, as John pointed out, education. Education is some key here that's basically going to have some control over what jobs people have. We had involved with some car dealer down in Eagle Lake, and he'd love to have jobs. He needed some people. He could go there. He was going to offer them $30,000 a year to sit there and have a technical job. He trained them, get vacation, the whole thing. He didn't find much people that were even able to meet some minimum requirements. Our schools are not doing well in a lot of that area. We've gotten rid of basically vocational education, and that's a mistake. We need to return to that. So some of those areas relative to education really affect the economy in the state of Texas for sure. Relative to the rest of it, the housing programs, the FEMA has been doing a good job, but they have to be reined in some respects. We still have some better controls, and it's more of a federal issue than a state issue, but we can have state resources that we have, since we have an abundance of them at this point relative to other states, that we can have some impact on the social programs that people require this time of need.
Thank you for your response.